Welcome, everyone. I'm Liz Scott, and I'm here today and I want to cover Intro to Cash Flow. And the first part of this two-part presentation is really going to be talking about Intro to Cash Flow. So I want to give you a little bit of information about myself. My name is Liz Scott, and I have an accounting firm, and I work solely with small business owners who use QuickBooks and the related ecosystem. And so, as you can see right here, my number one thing that is our mission of our business is to actually help small business owners create the life that they really want. And why that is our mission statement is because many people go into business, but they end up having this business that sometimes drags them down. And so they don't actually have that business that they really want. So we come in and we say, we're going to help you with understanding your cash flow. We're going to help you with understanding your financial position. And that's whenever people start having those light bulb moments and they start loving their business again. So today's presentation really speaks to my heart and our core mission. And I'm really excited to walk through this educational moment with you. So let's go ahead and talk about what it is that we're going to be covering. And so if we think about our agenda today in a couple of groups of topics, we're going to be first talking about understanding your financial position. So where does that help you land with being able to then move into step two, which is what is cash flow? So those two things are definitely very much related. And then the next thing is, what's the value of managing that cash flow? And I have really important notes that I want to share about what is that value of managing that cash flow. And then everybody's like, what can I do now? What are some actions and steps that I can take this moment and move forward and suddenly improve your position? And so we're going to talk about that in our section 4. And then lastly, QuickBooks has listened to you and they've been hearing, all about the small business needs, and they have created a bunch of resources that I want to make sure that you know how to find those and what those resources look like. This first part, we're going to be talking about what is that understanding of your financial position. And so if we think about small businesses are designed to help a specific need or industry or service. So there's lots of different small businesses out there, but the thing that I want to point out is success is not automatic. That's not something that you can just suddenly open up this business and have this windfall of money and this amazing life that comes with it. You actually have to work at it. And there's a couple of methods in order to be able to be successful. And so we're going to think about some of those areas because I want you to grasp an understanding of how to take these tools to help your own business and not be one of those statistics that ends in a failed business and a closure. So we're going to think about who are our who are our businesses designed to help? So why did you go into business? And pulling it back to creating this business that you really love means, are you doing the thing that you set out to do? Or are you doing things that are just, managing and you feel like you're constantly scrambling? There's ways to actually get around that feeling of always being slightly behind. So what is the mission of your business? Be really in touch with that because that actually helps you to be able to be more profitable and enjoy that business that you've created. And then also we're going to talk about who are your best customers. And I don't just mean who do you like the best. I mean, it's a combination of who do you actually enjoy helping as far as your customers and how can you clone those? So how can you make more of those? Because that actually leads to your success. And then also understanding your biggest expenses are going to also help you to understand, maybe can you get some discounts? Can you do something there in order to be able to manage your cash flow? So whenever we're thinking about running a business, it's expensive, right? It's like all of these different things that you didn't anticipate, or maybe you did, they just are drains financially. And it's just part of the operation of a business. You've got to have rent, you've got to have payroll, you have to have insurance, you've got to have utility. So you need lights on. Even if you're virtual, you need to make sure that you've got internet. So all of these different pieces are really part of what we're going to be exploring today. So that way you're looking at the big picture and you're not just stuck in the day-to-day operations. That planning is really key. So I have to sit back and say, this is one of the biggest questions that in our firm we get asked. And so, of course, what we hear, especially at year end, is where did all the money go? Where did it go, Liz? And so this is a very, very common question. And let me tell you, our number one explanation is whenever we come through and we say, well, here's how much you made. Here's the dollars that your profit and loss are saying that you took home. And the response to that is always, I couldn't possibly have made that much because I feel broke. There's no money in the bank, or maybe you're feeling like you're just, barely getting by. So there's actually some tips here that we can learn and to be able to speak to these two really common comments that are made by people just like yourself. So whenever we're thinking about how you can keep more of the money that you make, this is part of that cash flow planning that we're going to be talking about. This is managing that business activity. And so that way you can actually manage your business timely and make good management decisions. I'm sure that you have all been there. I'm sure that this is going to probably relate to, some of the thought process that you've had. But one of the things that, I hear is we're just scrambling to make ends meet today. We'll worry about tomorrow. So if you're actually able to do some cash flow projections in the beginning, it's not as hard as you think it's going to be. But if you're able to do some of those cash flow projections and management, then you actually are able to make good decisions. And maybe it's related to payroll. Maybe it's related to, again, cloning those best customers, or asking for some discounts from those large vendors that you have expenses with. There's often lots of opportunity there in order to make sure that you stay in business. Lack of cash flow is the number one reason that businesses fail. And so the reason for that is that, you might be a successful business. This might be alarming to you, but I'm going to say it again. It's like you might be a profitable business. You might have a good money maker, but if you don't have good money management, cash flow management, you might have some really big lulls whenever cash is coming in and the expenses are still due. So, one of the statistics tells us that in the first year of business, 20% of businesses actually fail. So if we move over into the second year of business, 50% of businesses fail. And so all of that has been directly correlated with being able to manage your cash flow. So that's a really biggie there. We want your doors to stay open. So what can you do? And we want to think about reading your financials. So this might feel foreign. This might feel like, what do you mean by balance sheet and profit and loss and cash flow? So let me stop for a second and say, this is one of my number one areas that I really enjoy to explaining. So your balance sheet is all about what you own and what you owe, and then what money you took home. That is your balance sheet. And so that's the information that's there that is very important. So you're going to see your cash balances on your balance sheet, because that's where, when you receive income, that's where those dollars land, is on your balance sheet. That's what you can see. So when we think about our profit and loss, this is where our revenue lives. This is where our expenses live. And then this is what we call our bottom line. So that bottom line is our net income. And that's where people go, but how could I make that much money? My bottom line says that maybe I made $120,000, but I look over my balance sheet and my bank account balance tells me that I only have $3,000 in the bank. So where did the money go? And that's where we start tying in the story of, what were your expenses? So how much money did you need to operate your business? And then also remember, you have debt sometimes. And so it's very common to have credit cards and to have loan payments. And so we're going to look at some examples of what those elements could be. And then the other piece of this story is the cash flow statement. So if we're thinking about the balance sheet is what you own and what you owe and what you took home. And then the profit and loss is all about that revenue and then the expenses that it took to operate your business and the net income. The cash flow is all about every day being able to see, do you have enough money to continue to operate this month or this week? Or even make projections into the next 30 days, the next 60 days, the next 90 days. And this is going to sound crazy, but people start planning once they grasp this, they start planning a year out. And so then they're no longer in those frantic moments where you're trying to make decisions. Now you're actually starting to manage your business, which makes your shoulders actually feel lighter. It's like, whoo, I've got this. So let's move over and let's talk about these examples. So if we're looking right now at a balance sheet, we are looking at the statement that I was saying talks about what you own and what you owe. So we can see right here on this balance sheet that we've got a story that's telling us that we have $1,200 in the checking account and we have $800 in savings account. And then we have this accounts receivable. We have $5,000 in accounts receivable. So if we come down here and we look at our accounts payable, so this is what we owe, then we can see that we owe $2,500-ish in accounts payable. So these are bills. These are the expenses in our business. We also have a MasterCard. And then the equity, that's all of the money that you took home. So that's why this balance sheet is really important, is to be able to figure out what's your position. So whenever they say to you, what's your financial position? Your bank might ask you that question. This is what they're talking about. They want to know about your balance sheet. And then if we move over and we start talking about our profit and loss, what does this story tell us? This story actually tells us how much did we make during a given period of time. So we could think of this as being a month view. Maybe we're looking at last month and we're seeing that the total amount of money that we brought in, so our income, is that we have $9,000 in income that we've received. And then if we come down here, we've got some cost of goods sold, so some operating expenses that are necessary, and then some additional operating expenses, so our payroll, our advertising, our rent. Any of those things are all items that are expenses that are directly related to running your business. And so this right here is where at the end of the year, you submit your financial statements to your tax accountant and they say, what's your bottom line? Well, down here in the net income area, that is your bottom line. So after all of the income and the expenses, your bottom line down here for this particular given month is $747. And this is really key to understand because it felt like you made a lot of money. You made $9,000 in sales. And so once, sometimes people tell me, hey, Liz, if I just had more in sales, I would actually have more revenue. My bottom line would increase. I just know it. And sometimes that is very true. And sometimes I come back and I say, yeah, but your expenses might actually increase if you're trying to do more volume. And often I sometimes advise to say, what if it's your prices that need to change? What if it's not your volume? What if we just made a few little minor tweaks to your prices and then your income is going to go up? Your expenses stay the same. You haven't changed any of those. All you've done is changed your prices. And now your net income, maybe you just added $1,000. I mean, everybody could use that extra $1,000 or $2,000. So this is where, in my world, these financial statements come to life They tell a story and they tell us, how can you do better? What little minor things can you do to manage your business? And sometimes people say, it's all about not working in your business, but working on your business. And these are the things, these elements that I'm talking about that make it where you're managing your business, you're working on your business instead of just scrambling in order to make another sale. So, what is cash flow? We talked about our balance sheet and our profit and loss, but let's move over into an explanation of the cash flow. So, the cash flow is this money movement. It's all about being able to say, yes, we have money coming in, yes, we have money moving out, but can we track that in order to be able to say, can we live another day? Do we have enough operating cash to keep going? So every business, owner thinks about all of this money movement, this money exchange. And I would say that it's difficult now as compared to previous years whenever people, if you think about those old little grocery stores, that convenience stores, that they used to have a money box. And inside that money box, that's where they would keep all the cash because everybody dealt with cash. So people would come in, they'd say, I'm going to buy these things. Here's my cash to pay for it. And then that register would have like a little box and you put the cash in. And at the end of the day, you'd go, look how much cash I have. So this is my income. And then you might have an employee that you say, hey, thank you for stocking my shelves or the services that you provided. Here's your cash for helping today. And then you'd look down at your box and you'd go, this is what I have left over. This is my cash flow. This is what I've got remaining in order to be able to continue on. Well, now we actually have electronic funds. And that's why it's a little more tricky to start managing your cash flow when you're talking about electronic funds. So if we're thinking about the importance of managing that cash flow, here's a couple of bar graphs that I can walk you through to say, if we're talking about April, we've got the dark green that's telling us that that's our revenue that we've brought in. Our light green, that's our expenses. And then that blue, that right there, that's our net income. So that's the difference between the two. Or we can think about that as being our cash flow. So if we've got money moving in, money moving out, we want to be able to manage this cash movement to be able to make sure that when we have deadlines for expenses, we're able to handle those. And you can see that these different months represent different months worth of activities. What I see a lot of times with businesses is their cycles. If you're a landscaping business, well, of course, then you're going to have really busy seasons, probably starting in March. People are spraying yards. May, June, hot months, they're mowing. And then there's a little bit of a downtime in the late fall. But then sometimes those landscaping businesses, I've seen them start to pick up and they're doing ice scraping or snow plowing or Christmas lights. And so they'll have an uptick again in late October and November. And then after Christmas, they'll have another uptick where they're taking down those Christmas lights. So every business has a season and has some trends. It's all about following them and understanding what your trends are, because we want to think about our cash flow here. So our cash flow statements are really important to think about. I'm going to say at this point, I would like to go ahead and take you through a demo of how this happens inside of your QuickBooks and what tools are available, because I've gone through several different reports and now I'm landing on this cash flow statement and I want to show you how you have access to that inside of QuickBooks 2. Okay, so now you should be seeing my QuickBooks screen. And here, what you should see is my dashboard that I'm on. And so I'm coming down here and I'm going to say, I'm going to move over to the cash flow and point this out that we're going to talk about that in an upcoming webinar. But right now, what I want to do is help you with the basics, understanding your financials. So I'm going to come over here to the Reports Center. So on your navigation bar, you have centers, and the center we just moved into is our Report Center. And we're going to start with that balance sheet. So I'm just looking at a demo company that I like to play at. We're going to look at last month so we can see how we did, or we could actually even say that we want to say the entire last quarter. Let's see what our financial position says on our balance sheet. Here's our bank account balance. We might have some other accounts because it's oftentimes that I'll see different businesses have multiple types of bank accounts. And so you've got all of your various different bank accounts totaling up $108,000. And then I can move over here and I can say, here's my accounts receivable. That's a big number. And if you're waiting on a lot of people to pay you and you have a lot of expenses that are also due, this is where I was saying a very successful business, a profitable business can fail because they don't have the timing worked out. Because our accounts receivable, this means that this is money that you have not received yet. You are waiting for it. Maybe it's services that you've performed, maybe it's goods that you've sold, or services and goods that you're going to perform in the future. These are the dollars that you're waiting to have come into your bank account. And then if we come over here and we look at, let's move down to our liabilities. And so remember I was saying it's what you own and what you owe. So now we're moving down to what you owe section. So here's our credit cards. This is all money that you owe as a business owner. This business owner has $3,000 worth of credit card debt. If we come down here, we're looking at this business owner has several different areas that they have liabilities. So payroll liabilities, these are the payroll taxes that you would owe. I can also see that there's loans here. We've got some vehicles. And so liabilities, this what you owe area is saying you need to make loan payments on the different assets that you have acquired. So you need to pay for those. And then down here, this is the equity where I was saying, every business goes into business to make money, right? So you want to take money out of your business. And a lot of people call those distributions or draws. And those things happen, and that's tracked on your balance sheet. So this is the important of your balance sheet, is that it's what you own. So you have some vehicles, you have some equipment, you have some money in the bank account. So this is all about what you own. And I'm going to go ahead and condense down this section so it's really very clear. So our assets, and then it's all about what you owe. I'm also going to condense that section down too. So whenever I'm thinking about these two sections, what you owe and what you own, we can come over here and see our total liabilities. That number then is reflected, and we're able to tell the financial position of the business. So if I come back over into our reports center, I'm going to move over to our profit and loss that we were talking about that's part of our financial story. And I'm going to say this quarter to date. So I'm going to look at the first quarter of business plus any extra days that are in here as well. So I'm going to say what I've got here is here's our income. Here's the amount of money that we have received for services in this first quarter. Then I can move down here and I can say, here's some of our expenses that we have. So here's the different things that happened during that time frame. And then I can move down here and I can say, here's my net income for that quarter. So this is why it's really important to be thinking about cash flow, because 5,000 again might feel like it's a large number. But then if I come down and I see, oh my gosh, my expenses almost were identical, that's why sometimes it feels like you're just doing busy work. And that's that piece that I listen to that I want to be able to aid with and help with, to say, Sometimes it's just a little bit of money management in order to be able to create these businesses that you really love by bringing home more bacon. So this is our profit and loss. Let's now move over to a cash flow statement. So we were just going through the slides and we were talking about the cash flow statement. I want to show you that it also exists inside of your QuickBooks Online. So this is a report that all users of QuickBooks Online have access to as long as you're in an active subscription. So if you type in cash flow statement, that is the way to see this report. I want to make sure that you see me doing that because it's not listed as part of these reports down here. So we can type in cash flow statement, and here we can actually say, I want to do last quarter, and then I'm able to understand my cash flow position. So I had some money coming into the business. I had some operating expenses where money left the business. And then I had some investing opportunities. So I took those. And so I invested in those opportunities. And then I'm able to say there was money in the beginning of my period. So at the beginning of January, at the beginning of this quarter, I actually had money, cash flow to work with. And those dollars were this amount right here, $107,000. And then at the end of this period, because I had my income, I had my expenses, and then I had my opportunity to say at the end, this is my cash position. We are looking at our cash flow statement that we just explored. And so this is where it starts to get fun because you can see you have interactive places inside of your QuickBooks to start going and managing these different areas. So once you start getting the hang of it, then you can see I've got a couple of call outs on this slide. So do you have enough money to last the next 30 days or 90 days? And then also, if we think about how those accounts payable and those accounts receivable relate, we're going to explore that a little bit more. And then we want to see, can we do some things to maybe change our income or our cash flow position by maybe either making more money or reducing spending or both. So let's go ahead and talk about that true value of managing cash flow. It keeps the doors open. So we were talking about our alarming statistic. So now we can also say we have some things to arm us. We have some tools to equip us to be able to say, fantastic, we've got the ability to manage our money better and then also keep those doors open. So why would we want to really manage our money? We want to manage our money for business growth. Maybe we have ideas. As the entrepreneur, whenever I think about you special people, you typically are people who are visionaries. You are typically people who have ideas. And if you've got a business that has some liquidity to it, so you've got some cash flow, you can actually take a step back and think about how can I improve my business and how can I grow it? The other thing that you can do is you can hire people. So again, it's instead of working in your business, you're starting to move to that management position where you're working on your business and you've hired teams of people to be able to help you with that business growth plan. And then if we think about what can you do now? This is that section where I get really excited because I'm like, there are things that you can take away in this moment to be able to say, I can make a difference and create this business that I really want. So you can think about this number one item is you can quantify the cash flow impact. So identify methods that are more viable to your business and that have a big cash flow impact. The other thing that you can do is you can also identify areas to optimize. So where are those areas of opportunity? So what can you do to actually increase your business's um, growth and worth. And then also understanding these things that you can focus on then allows you to be able to share that with your team. Your team wants you to do well. Your employees, your contractors want you to do well because they want to have a job. They want to have that security. So if you share the vision of your business with your team, whoosh, suddenly you get into this opportunity to have some growth. So I want to share with you, here's this unmanaged cash flow. So we've been talking about why it's important. So what does it look like if it's unmanaged? And you can see I've got this light green again that represents our money coming in. So here's our income. Wow, we have some big peaks. And then we have some expenses. And those expenses, man, they have some big peaks. And you can see that my income and my expenses are not equally level. They actually are very unstable. And so if you said, oh my gosh, I have this great windfall of cash, and you're excited to take some of that money home or to do something with it, and you're not thinking about the future timing coming up, and you've got this huge liability of maybe some expenses that are coming up or your payroll's coming up, you're going to have a difficult time with being able to make sure that you can manage those expenses. So the thing that we can do is we can think about some more reports inside of QuickBooks that are going to tell us some additional information. So here we can see that we are looking at an accounts receivable aging summary. And this report is also in QuickBooks online, depending on which subscription that you have. If you're using a subscription and you're using invoices, this is going to be a report that you're going to see. And you can look at the aging and tell, are my customers slow paying me? And right here, I can tell on my report, I've got customers who haven't paid me 30, 60, 90 days out. All of those dollars start to make a daily impact on your business. If you don't have those dollars that have been received, then it's really difficult to be able to say, I can manage my upcoming expenses. So let's take a look at those. So here is a report that also exists in QuickBooks. And this top one, I'm going to call it the Unpaid Bills Report because that's the name of it in QuickBooks. And you can see all of the bills that have not been paid yet. And then you can actually see the past due. So this is if you're inside of QuickBooks and you're entering a bill and you're putting in the terms, then you can see when is that bill due? So what's the importance of getting it paid? Because you want to make sure that you're in good standing with your vendors to keep operating. The other thing that's on this screen is you can see that this is an AP aging summary. So this is going to tell you in a different view, what are your 30, 60, 90 days out? And this is great information for being able to say what's important for me to pay now. So that current, that $750, if that's not due yet, don't pay it. Remember, we need to stabilize our cash flow. So we need to look at this old stuff. Good gosh, get that paid. If that's due, get it paid. You want to stay in good standing. So those are all key important pieces of information. And then the next thing I'm going to show you is a really cool template that you can use for being able to plug in some of your expenses, for being able to manage these areas yourself. And I'm going to show you there is a link directly to this area so you could actually go cash flow, manage your business and use this template in an Excel format. And so I'm going to go ahead and now stop and go live for just a second into the QuickBooks file so I can show you those reports and then also this cash flow statement. Okay, so you should be seeing my QuickBooks now. And we were looking at reports earlier, so that's exactly where we're going to go back. We're going to go back over to our reports. And I'm going to say, if you want to star a report, it's going to pop up automatically so it can give you information. So if I came here and I said I wanted to look at the end of the month, then I would be able to see, oh my goodness, look how many different bills that I have past due. This would give me an indication that it's time to go manage those dollars. And then I could also say, that's my accounts receivable. But if I wanted to look at my accounts payable, I'm going to scroll down to the area of QuickBooks that's going to be what you owe. So I can click on that unpaid bills. And here I can see which areas of QuickBooks are important for me to go and pay attention to with these bills. And since I've put them in, I can see that I've got days. I've got lots of time to pay this. So it's not due yet. I've got 52 days. This is how you can start to structure your money management. This is how you can start to say, I need to make sure that I'm receiving the dollars because that's important for being able to pay my bills. And then the next thing I want to show you is that cash flow statement template. This is a link that I was showing you before that you have access to. And here you can actually plug in all of these different pieces. And that way you can actually say, this is the financial position of my business. Here's how I'm performing. And what you would do with this is whenever you go to log in and use this template, you're actually going to come over here and you're going to say, make a copy. And when you make a copy, that's going to be your version. Because remember, we're looking at the QuickBooks version that is hosted. So you want to make a version of this that's yours that you can use and to make that copy and then to utilize this cash flow statement. So you can plug in all of your operating expenses. You can plug in what is your cash flow at the beginning of a period. So that way you know your cash flow position at the end of that period. This is a wonderful tool to be able to take that next level into managing your business. So we also have the cash statement. So we have a cash flow statement that we looked at earlier to be able to go and see inside of QuickBooks. Remember, you type that in and then you can see your cash at the end of the period. And then now that we're managing our cash flow, we have the same grid here. So we're able to say our customers are going to pay us. We're going to manage those receivables more timely to be able to say that we want to be able to have a steady flow of income coming in. We don't want those invoices to get 30, 60, 90 days out. And then we're also going to enter bills into QuickBooks so that way we can see the due dates and manage when we're paying them. So that way we have a more stable flow of cash into our business. Those are all great things that we went through today. And so I want to share what can QuickBooks do to help because they've been listening to you. And one of the things that QuickBooks has created is an ecosystem to help you manage your business. And so this ecosystem includes being able to have QuickBooks as a tool for your accounting system, then also having QuickBooks Payments, so QB Payments, that is the merchant services that you can use in order to receive electronic payments that are going to be directly imported into your QuickBooks. And then also the Cash Flow Center is a tool, and then also being able to have those planners. The other thing that's really pretty new is the Cash Bank. So QuickBooks Cash is a bank account that you can actually use to be able to manage those electronic funds easier. And that way you can see all of that digital money moving back and forth in a slightly easier view. So all of these tools are things that are going to be in the next level presentation. So I'm going to go ahead and show you that these takeaways from today are actually also next steps. So what can you do is that there's opportunity in these numbers. There's opportunity to understanding your financial position and your cash flow. And then if you've loved this and you want more, great, there's more. And you can join us for another webinar where we're going to actually explore more of that QuickBooks cash flow tools and the ecosystem. So I want to share that with you, that this is upcoming information that's rolled out directly to you in response to all of the needs that small business owners have to keep those doors open. And I want to also tell you that, again, remind you that I'm Liz Scott. And if you've seen the presentation and you want to be able to have a quick link to these resources that are available to you, you actually can have access to them directly on our website. You can pop over to that URL. The other thing that you can do is I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I'm going to show you the cash flow tools that are QuickBooks related that we've put on our website directly for you. So here they are. I'm actually on my website and I'm looking at these QuickBooks cash flow tools. And each of those that we looked at today, you actually have links to be able to receive direct access to all of those links in one spot. And so we would love to hear from you. We'd love to know how you're doing. And so this is a great resource for being able to stay in contact and make sure that you've got the things that you need to be successful. So I want to say thank you for joining us today. I want to thank you for devoting your time to and energy into listening and walking through what cash flow management can do for your business.